of us.
Right.
Not just for the wealthy to have cottages or etc., but for all of us to have a right to those ocean beaches. One of the greatest things that's ever happened here.
Yes, and Tom McCall, rightly so, gets a lot of credit for it. The argument that was leveled on that was that the beach was a highway, because in those days they used the buckboard to go up and down the coast. There wasn't a lot of infrastructure to drive your car.
Right.
Which brings me to the wobblies, hobos and the like in the 10s, 20s, and 30s in this country rode the rail because it was the best way to get around.
That's right.
So
That's right.
the beach bill was a terrific success story, and it was compromise and cooperation that got it where it went.
See, along with having the beaches, I think it's been so important in Oregon that we have significant parks. I mean, this is such a beautiful place to live with all the mountains, the forests, the rivers, the lakes, etc. And we want to make sure that the beauty of this place is available for all the citizens, including the poorest citizens as well as the richest citizens. See, this is one of the things I love about good, strong public education. Not against private education, but good, strong public education where each generation, the children of each generation, have a chance to get a start in the development of their talents and their capacities, their abilities. And I had it during the Depression. I want it for each generation in this U.S. of A.
Absolutely, and the thing we have to be careful of is, yes, protect the the park system, but there is land that can be utilized for timber, paper production, and the like. It just has to be done, in a thinking manner. In Scandinavia, they've been cyclically cutting one forest for 400 years. My idea in this is we could have sustained yield of timber done right. But now you have extreme environmentalists that sue at every chance for any kind of agreement that's been made. It's almost like you pull a rabbit out of a hat. Another environmental movement is sued through the courts. The pulp and paper industry is going, and back in 2007 there was a bill, Senate Bill 737, the mixing zone bill, that would have knocked out all the industries of paper in Oregon. We soundly defeated that, proving that the pollution in the river, particularly the Willamette I'm talking of, was coming from the municipalities and not industry itself. And if people think about it, when pulp and paper really got its mainstay in the 60s, the exception would be Blue Heron and Oregon City, which was over 100 years old. It's gone now. But the 50s and 60s is when pulp and paper industry really took on in Oregon. Before that, they took the debris from the trees and they put them in metal, what they call wigwams.
Yes.
And they were screened in, and they burnt all that.
I see.
Well, think of the pollution then. When you look at this valley, and one of the reasons I hope not to see real large heavy industry in the valley is they say that we would have problems with smog like they have in LA today. Mm-hmm. We have to keep the jobs that we have here in this state. We are about to lose 4 counties in southern Oregon due to the idea that nobody can even cut a twig anymore. And that's down south. It's called the Oregon and California lands, O&C lands. What happened then when it started off was the railroad that was going to build the railroad through this tree forest, I should say, went bankrupt. So the people in the counties bought the land with the agreement that they would make cuts for the roads and schools.
Yes.
Well, with the spotted owl thing and all, it's locked up now. We have very, very high unemployment. There's no taxes being paid. And really, the joke is on the rest of the state of Oregon, because if these counties go down, the state will have to come in and give the services, and we'll all be paying for it anyway. Most people don't want a handout. They want to work.
Right.
Pay for the kids' education, build up for retirement. We need to put people back to work. not make this a playground for people that happen to live north of here.
Well, what you've lifted up is very important as citizens in this democracy to be aware of the different dimensions to the good life. I mean, the whole state doesn't have to become a park.
Right.
We want parks. We want the beauties of nature. We also want people to be employed, to
Yes.
have jobs, to support themselves and their families.
Yes, and I think Representative Ernie Roeblen, who is now Senator Arnie Roeblen, said in 2011 we had a meeting with Democratic rural politicians and the governor, and he's from Coos Bay, that's his district, and he said to the governor, Governor, we live and work and play where I live.
Yes.
We do not want to pollute or destroy what we love down in Coos Bay.
Yes.
But, to your point, he said, we do not want to become the park for the rest of Oregon. Mm-hmm. We have to utilize our resources in a smart, intelligent manner. What happened previously was shameful, but times have changed now. We need to put people back to work.
See, and what you've just lifted up is part of the environmentalist movement should be the continuing development of forests, because we're going to continue to need wood. We're going to have to continue to build houses and all the different purposes of wood, you see. Why shouldn't we have a successful forest industry right here, as well as other kinds of industries right here in the state of Oregon, for the employment of people as well as the beauty of the landscape?
Well, yes, and let's go back to pulp and paper industry. I mean, these mills are usually in rural areas. They pay high wages, have good benefits. You know, you can live comfortably in that setting. The problem is with these trade agreements that we've entered into, don't give an even field to the pulp and paper workers. Scrap paper is being exported to China. China is now the #1 producer of paper. They can take that scrap paper and bring it back to Long Beach, California at 1/3 of the cost we can do it and produce it here. The employers are selling scrap paper because they're getting top dollar from the Chinese. This is Oregonian paper. We are recycling and sending our jobs over there when we could use this recycling paper to keep our workers in work. It isn't that there's a lack of paper anymore.
Yes.
The production's up as usual. It's just we're losing our mills. They're closing down, shipping the mills to Brazil, to Vietnam, to China, at the cost of our taxpayer base. Just think, Frank, here in Yamhill County, if something should happen to SP Print up in Newburgh, or say Cascade Steel, what would happen to the tax base of Yamhill County? Who would pick up that liability, the payroll taxes that aren't there, the property taxes that the companies pay in the coffers?
See, what you've just lifted up is one of the things that I have thought about so often, and that is the value of one of the strange things is to live here in McMinnville, Oregon, where there's a steel mill.
Yeah.
And yet that's one of the biggest and most important employers for this whole county.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
And when I worked at Cascade Steel, a good friend of mine, Drew LePay, who was the vice president of Schnitzer Steel and the human resources director for Cascade Steel, an excellent person, was a Pittsburgher. He came from Pittsburgh,
Oh, yes.
Pennsylvania, I almost said Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And he told me that, you know, in those days, a lot of Christian shop holders did not work on Sundays
Yes.
because of the Sabbath. But he would have to go down to his father's shop and sweep the soot off the windows of his father's shop. It was so thick.
I see.
Growing up in Chicago, Gary, Indiana, people would not open their windows in the summer because of the soot that came out of the blast furnaces and open hearths of the steel mills, all in that area.
Yes.
Cascade Steel has been very, very good on the environment. I believe it's about 98% pollution free.
That's beautiful.
You know, and there was a guy named Dave West who worked in the melt shop that helped establish the lead code. So the workers in the melt shop, where they have all kinds of different chemicals in the air, now dress, in fresh clothes, have their blood drawn to make sure they don't have high lead.
Yes.
And these are good things.
Yes.
And we need to keep these jobs here. I mean, these are good jobs. Where are you going to go and get them?
Well, you see, that's one of the things that I have thought about living here in McMinnville, and having lived formerly in Chicago with